Hey guys, this is Michael from Line and Land Ministries. I just had a thought as I was driving home about a few things that happened in my life, that's particularly this week, that I thought I'd pass on to you guys. There's a lot of people out there that seem to have a problem or seem to have a disposition where they don't want to be judged. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to have eyes on them for a number of different reasons. But I was sort of looking at it and dwelling on that thought of why are we so fearful to be looked at? Why are we so fearful? And then there's another camp of people that will openly be doing something, and openly doing it will say, only God can judge me, you're not allowed to judge me. And they'll pull out Matthew 7:1 without reading 7:2 and without reading a number of other different passages that the Messiah actually spoke about. And they'll forget to pull out James. Even Paul says it, Peter says it, where we'll know people by their fruit. I think it's quite an interesting thing to understand that we are called to judge. It's one of our ways of being able to keep our people safe. We're very much called to judge the fruit of people's actions, how people walk and talk. We're not called to judge the heart. The heart judgment's going to be coming when we stand in front of the Creator Himself, Yehovah, and He pronounces judgment on the heart. That is a heart judgment. Yom Kippur is a heart judgment, and that's not our calling. Very much we are called as believers to be judging believers based on our actions. And not in a way that sort of points the finger, just like the Messiah said, where He says, why don't you sort out the big long stick in your eye rather than the splinter in someone else's before you go to them. But this is a way that we as a body keep our check and keep the standard high. And as a brother, I want people to have the best for me. And in having the best for me, they're going to want to pull me up regardless of my reaction, because they know ultimately the best for me doesn't mean that I'm happy all the time. The best for me actually means that I'm acting and obeying the Messiah and also following Torah, which the Messiah is Torah. So maybe we should have a look at ourselves. Maybe we should be looking at how we approach things. Are we deliberately skirting around friction for the sake of we don't want to have those awkward spaces? Are we actually close enough friends with a lot of people? Do we have the deep connection that is required in order to be able to pull someone up or be pulled up yourself without taking offense? Are we falling into this woke agenda where anyone who has an opposing idea all of a sudden is producing hate speech against you? Because if they have an opposing idea, it could be the right one. We need to look at that. Also too, on that, allowing other people to have a look into your life and judge your actions in a way that will actually make you a better person. We need to watch out for that inverse, as the Messiah said, and stop being trigger happy. There are some things that need to be said but can be quite easily said in an offensive way. So having tact and the ability to speak in a way that the other person will listen is very important. The idea in Matthew 18, I think it is, where you come alongside that brother or sister really quietly, and then if that doesn't work, you bring someone else, and if that doesn't work, then you bring it to the whole ecclesia or gathering that you're part of, so that it can be brought to light. Is very important. It also shows that there is a natural affection of brotherhood between the two people. Like for instance, I'd always be respecting the hierarchy of family and the hierarchy of the church when I'm coming and approaching someone, because I'm not going to be speaking directly to someone's wife. That's just inappropriate. I'll be speaking to their husband. If I've noticed something, I'd also be very careful too, if I wasn't that close of a friend to the person, I'd have to work out a different way of approach, because you do need that family aspect of the friendship in order to understand that someone may not be saying something you like, but they actually deeply love you in a way that they'd be willing to jeopardize happiness for the sake of betterment. So when someone says to you, only God can judge me, that's a very dangerous statement, because one, it's factually incorrect, but two, if you're waiting for that judgment from Yehovah, be very, very, very careful that judgment is going to land on your side, because if it doesn't, then there's only one option. You don't get a second chance when you meet with Yehovah. If you say only God can judge me, only God can decide whether my actions are right or wrong, then you've actually circumnavigated those portions of grace that are given to you when He allows others to come alongside you to pull you up before that judgment happens. This is an element of His grace and mercy on us, that He would allow a brother or sister to pull you up first before striking the iron while it's hot and putting you into that eternal fire. The second thing is, if we're too worried to rock the boat that we're not going to be pulling up or coming alongside another person to help them in their sin, then we're actually being tolerant to that sin. And in being tolerant to that sin, you're actually now also responsible for allowing that sin to be there. You notice that in the Torah, we see that there are a few different ways that sin is dealt with. The first in particular is that sin is dealt with by the person's life being taken from them. And this in particular is done so that people can... The rock can stop where it is rather than spreading through the whole camp. And usually these sins are actually the serious sins, the ones that require that. Remember, God is a just God. Yehovah is very just, and He's not going to give a punishment that does not fit the crime. The second one we see is that the person is excommunicated. This is the exact same thing. Remember, if they're excommunicated, from my understanding, there is that ability to be able to come back after you've been forgiven for those sins. There is an element of grace in that. And the third way that sin was judged in the Torah is that there is a financial implication for what you've done. Whether that is that you have to pay a fine, pay double back, like if you stole something, or whether it is that you need to now sell the animal that gored the other person's animal so you can split both of them. There is a financial implication. So you've got three different ways, and they're all very, very important, but we also must understand that with those, there was an element of forgiveness. If the person forgave you, you didn't have to go through with that thing. If you had stolen from them and the person forgave you, you weren't forced to pay that fine back to them. If they forgave you, they forgave you. And I can imagine it would be for the rest of those as well. If the person that you sinned against forgave you, then you were forgiven. So allow that also to seep into what we're doing in our walk. Our walk is different to that in which we used to. If we were in the modern Christianity, our walk is very much different from any sort of pagan ideology. It's understanding that the front of the book also speaks immense amount of grace and mercy to the people. So don't be afraid to rock the boat. Don't be afraid to test those friendships in order for someone else to be better. Don't be afraid to lose a friendship in order for someone else to understand that they had slipped up in a way and that you value them being better over a happy life. Secondly, allow yourself to be open enough that someone else can actually come alongside you and keep you accountable. This is all about accountability. It's not about a scorecard. There's no ladder at the end of the year where you say, oh, look at this, John won because he's on top. No. If someone comes alongside me and pulls me up for something that I've done wrong, I know it's because they love me. It's not because they like pointing fingers. It's not because they like feeling important. It's because they were willing to sacrifice something in order to come alongside me because they saw something was up. They got my sins. Anyway, that's my note for today. That's what I was thinking, and yeah, I hope that can be thought provoking for some of you out there.